Texas football completes a historic comeback against Mississippi State to keep their SEC championship hopes alive, while volleyball keeps an undefeated season going with 2 more SEC wins. And as the World Series heads back to Los Angeles, we'll take a look at the 2 remaining teams, how they got this far, and who is going to take home that Commissioner's Trophy. All that and more on College Press Box. Good evening and welcome back to College Press Box. I'm Dylan Becker, hosting with Nolan Clay tonight. Before we get started, we want to remind you that College Press Box is brought to you by Cap Metro, Austin's transit system. We connect you to work, school, play, and everywhere in between. Plan your ride to this weekend's game at capmetro.org. Over the weekend, the Longhorns showed everyone that no win comes easy in the SEC, needing a 17-point comeback to take down Mississippi State in an instant classic. Our very own Kendell, Ungar, and Krilowicz were at Monday's media avail with Coach Sark. Let's see what they had to say.
Checking in for TSTV Sports after Monday's media availability, I'm Kendell Ungar. This is Krilowicz. Everyone, after this game against Mississippi State, when Arch Manning went down in overtime, what is his status? Sark did say at today's press conference he is in protocol. He did not practice this morning. There'll be more information to come. So for right now, Matthew Caldwell took the first team reps at practice, and his teammates had a lot to say about him. So TJ, what do you want to say about Matthew Caldwell?
Well, yeah, I mean, the teammates definitely had a lot, but I also felt really moved by what Steve Sarkisian had to say about Matthew Caldwell. I mean, he had 2 situations now this season, one against Florida, the other against Mississippi State, where he's had to come in high-intensity moments with little to no notice at all, and he's been able to deliver both times. And Steve Sarkisian talked about that the players now have that confidence in Matthew Caldwell now because of those instances, and also that he's been through a lot of systems. He's shown that he's been able to show up in his opportunities, and Sarkisian also has that confidence in him now. So this is what Steve Sarkisian had to say about Matthew Caldwell during this press conference.
He's very engaged even when he doesn't play. If you ever watched our sidelines in game, 18 is probably the most engaged player on that sidelines. He's always picking guys up, offense, defense, special teams. And so he's got a really good relationship with the guys. And so I don't think it's like, well, who's this guy? He's in a lot of faces a lot of the times.
For any player, it's always a good thing when your head coach and your teammates say you're always engaged on the sideline, one of the most, and to have that respect even before the plays. So we'll have to see what happens on Saturday, whether Caldwell will be QB1.
Yeah, and so this is going to be the 3rd time that Texas plays a top 10 opponent this season. First time at home at DKR. It's against the number 9 Vanderbilt Commodores. That game's going to be at 11 on Saturday. From TSTV Sports, this is Kendell Ungar. I'm TJ Krilowicz.
Great work, Kendell and TJ. What an effort it was from the Horns, completely turning it around for the win after looking absolutely dead in the water. Let's dive into those highlights from this past weekend at the game. Texas's offense got out to a hot start with a screen pass to Ryan Wingo, turning on the Jets and bouncing off defenders down inside the 5-yard line, getting this offense going early. Arch Manning looking to take advantage of that quick play. He takes a snap. He's going to do it himself here, taking off with the legs and diving for the goal line. That's a touchdown for the Longhorns as Texas draws first blood here. But it wouldn't take long for the Bulldogs to answer right back as Blake Shapen finds tight end Sam West, celebrating National Tight Ends Day a little early here. This touchdown for the Bulldogs and the early equalizer. Texas, though, with that strong offense early, coming right back down the field, and on 3rd and goal, Manning rolling, looking, throwing, caught, touchdown. Parker Livingstone gets this one, puts the Horns back up on top, but again, Mississippi State right back down the field, and on 4th down, it's the backup Taylor who throws. Pass is tipped and caught to Traore. Take another look at this one. Jelani McDonald was all over this thing on coverage. He gets a hand on it, but tips it right into the hands of Traore for the touchdown, and we are back even. Once again, Manning and the Horns now looking to answer right back as they've done so far. Play action. Manning scanning, looking for Livingstone. It's tipped and it's picked off. It's Keely Taylor taking it the other way for the Bulldogs up past midfield and into Longhorn territory. Rough break for the Horns and Arch Manning here. Mississippi State couldn't quite find 6 after that one, so they settle here for a field goal. Kick is up and it's right through, and Mississippi State has the lead in the first half, but we're not done just yet because the Bulldogs, after a stop, go right back down, and on second down with less than a minute, Chapin looks sideline. You want 6, you got it. That's touchdown Mississippi State, and the Bulldogs have themselves a double-digit lead going into halftime out of nowhere. And hey, why not add on a little more near the end of the third quarter? Chapin fires touchdown again. That's a 17-point lead for the Bulldogs. Arch and the Horns got to get something going here. He presses that red button going way downfield to a wide open Wingo, makes the grab down inside the 5. He is fired up, looking to get this offense going. Manning then rolls right, fires to Livingstone at the sideline. Was he in bounds? One ref says yes, the other says no. They take a look. Livingstone makes that catch, left foot in, drags the right, maintains possession. That's a touchdown. Now down to 10 points. Texas got to get a stop here, but instead it's a shovel pass to the running back Booth. He makes a man miss, and he's gone. All those white jerseys, and none of them can catch Devon Booth, who takes a shovel pass 62 yards for a house call, and the Bulldogs are back up 17. Texas got to start cutting into this lead, and they do so right here with a sliding grab from Emmett Mosley for the touchdown. Mosley had himself a day. Texas gets the stop, goes down the field, couldn't punch it in again, so they go for 3 here. Shipley, the kick is up, and it's right through, so we are down to a single possession game. And then after a 3-and-out, Mississippi State punts the ball to who else but Ryan Niblett. Niblett down the left sideline makes 1-man miss, 2-man, 3-man miss. He's still on his feet. Now he's got an entourage, and Ryan Niblett goes 79 yards all the way home. His second punt return touchdown in the last 3 games, and we are tied up. And after a big stop from Texas's defense, we are headed to overtime. First play in OT, Manning looks to throw. Instead, he's going to take off. Looking for the first down here, he dives, gets it, but gets hit hard on the way down. So he has to come out of this game, and in steps the backup Matthew Caldwell on his first pass attempt, looking for Mosley, makes the catch, but was he in? They say no at first, but they take another look. Mosley maintains possession, stays in bounds on this one, and Texas has the lead. Last chance for the Bulldogs now. Chapin looking for something. He's rolling, trying to find anything, and he's taken down. The ball is out, but it doesn't matter. Texas comes all the way back from 17 down and steals a win in Starkville, keeping their SEC championship and playoff hopes alive. Our very own Kate Amon covered the game in Starkville this week. Let's take a look at her coverage.
It is pouring down rain here in Starkville, Mississippi, but that's okay, because the Texas Longhorns just beat the Bulldogs 45-38 in an exhilarating overtime game. Here are some highlights.
After a close win last week versus Kentucky, this was a must-win game on the road for the Longhorns. On the second offensive drive of the game, Arch Manning threw to Ryan Wingo, and he had a 60-yard run. Arch ends up scoring for a 3-yard touchdown to start this game off with an absolute bang. Offensively, Texas had a strong game, with Manning having a much-needed career-best performance with 346 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and Wingo with 5 catches and 184 yards. On the defensive side of the ball, Texas had failed to stop Mississippi State from creating a 17-point lead against Texas as we head into the fourth quarter. But as we say, Texas is a fourth-quarter team, and Manning threw a touchdown pass to Parker Livingstone for the score to be 21-38. Right after that, Manning threw another touchdown pass to Emmett Mosley. Game is now 28-38 with 9.5 minutes remaining. Texas defense was able to sack the Bulldogs QB, which allowed Texas to get the ball back fast. Wingo drops a pass, and Texas kicks for 3 points, needing one more touchdown to tie the game. Texas defense had another game-changing stop, and with 2 minutes left in the game, the Bulldogs punt it, and it lands in the hands of Ryan Niblett, and he runs that ball into the house for a 79-yard punt return to tie the game up 38-38. As we go into overtime, Manning takes a hard hit and is out of the game. Backup quarterback Matthew Caldwell throws a touchdown pass to Mosley, which was reviewed. It eventually called it was a game-winning touchdown that Texas needed. Ethan Burke made the game-ending sack to end this game 45-38 in overtime. This comeback off of a 17-point deficit in the fourth quarter resulted in Texas' largest comeback since 2007.
This is Kate Amon signing off for TSTV Sports.
Great work, Kate. An absolute thriller from front to back. And I'd like to make a quick apology to any of my roommates who may have been trying to get their work done during that game, and specifically that Niblet punt return. I truly am sorry. Now, let's go to Nolan and Max to talk more about Texas's improbable win. Nolan?
Thanks, Dylan. I'm here with Max Dagley to talk some Texas football after last week's thrilling win in OT against Mississippi State. Welcome to the show, Max. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, making my press box debut this year, so very excited to be here and thrilled to talk about some Longhorn football.
Absolutely. So let's get started. So Max, after a 62-yard shovel pass that ran straight through the teeth of one of the country's best defenses to put Mississippi State up 17 with 12 to go, any meeting Texas season had looked to be lost. How was this team able to come back to keep their SEC hopes alive?
Well, Nolan, more than anything, as cliche as this might sound, this team was able to complete this comeback because simply they just didn't give up. Despite two separate 17-point deficits in the fourth quarter, an injury to Arch Manning, missed opportunities late, the team's ability to get knocked down and keep fighting was a driving force in this win. Of course, comebacks of this stature don't just happen without any chaos or magic, and Texas had just that. After accumulating 3 massive punt returns in the previous 2 games, Ryan Niblet struck again late in the fourth with a 79-yard punt return by making 4 defenders miss as he type-rode down the sideline to even things up to go to overtime. Adversity struck yet again in overtime as Arch Manning went down with a concussion, but the gritty identity of this team came through once again as backup Matthew Caldwell stepped in. On a play in which he audibled, Caldwell displayed the ice in his veins as he delivered a 10-yard touchdown pass to Emmett Mosley to put the Horns up. Next possession, defense forced a turnover on downs to seal it, and after the wacky, unpredictable moments this emotional roller coaster of a game provided, Texas came out on top. Now, although it took 24 unanswered points in an effort to rally, it was refreshing for Texas fans to see the offense come to life, especially after the dominant defense surrendered a season-high of 38 points. Unlike what we've seen from the offense so far, Sarkisian and Arch Manning essentially threw the kitchen sink at the Bulldogs in the fourth, using an air raid style attack in which Manning threw for 170 yards while finding Livingstone and Mosley in the end zone to continue to cut the deficit. In addition to Manning, big players were making big-time plays on defense as well, as Ethan Burke made a crucial stop on 3rd and 1 to set up Niblet's punt return, and All-American Anthony Hill finished the game with 10 tackles and 2.5 sacks. Ultimately, all 3 sides of the ball stepped up and made the plays when they needed to, and this comeback win is a product of the culture that Steve Sarkisian has brought to Austin and constantly emphasizes in his locker room.
Absolutely. You know, you can talk about a lot how the team has performed this year, but you cannot question their heart. Steve Sarkisian has built a team that has tons of heart and is never out of any game they're playing in. Next question. While the 40 Acres will never forget the instant classic from last weekend, sights are set ahead as the number 9 ranked Vanderbilt Commodores, never thought I'd be saying that, come into town after last week's performance. What are some areas Texas will need to specifically focus on to keep their momentum going?
Well, after a huge home win against Missouri this past weekend, said you hadn't thought about it in a while. Vanderbilt comes rolling into Austin with its first ranking inside the top 10 since 1947. Wow. Clark Lee and Diego Pavia want nothing more than to cement this team as an SEC contender right now, and beating the Texas Longhorns in Austin will only add more fuel to that fire that has already lit up that locker room this year. Coming off of consecutive overtime wins against mediocre SEC teams that the Longhorns had to string together improbably at the end, it is unlikely they will find themselves in the same situation against the number 9 team in the country this weekend. Therefore, if Texas looks to keep their SEC hopes alive for just one more weekend, the game will have to be controlled early on. Potentially missing Arch Manning provides a sense of uncertainty on an already dormant offense. So Steve Sarkisian will have to take the pressure off Matthew Caldwell and essentially be forced to establish the run against a Vanderbilt defense who gives up 100 rushing yards a game compared to Texas' 140 rushing yards a game on offense. Statistically, there is somewhat an advantage there. But to keep Vandy's defense honest, if they are expecting this run, don't be surprised for Sark to create opportunities through play actions, screens, and quick dump-offs like we saw at Red River. On the defensive side of the ball, it will be crucial to keep Diego Pavia pressured in the pocket so he can create plays on the run like he specializes in. And ways to execute this will result in consistent blitzes off the edge, along with Anthony Hill, QB Spy, and Pavia in drop-back situations. While the defense appeared vulnerable in the way that they have not been this year just last week, the SEC has seen what they are capable of, and in a sold-out DKR, the pressure will be on Vanderbilt and Pavia to take care of the ball in a hostile environment paired with a defense that creates multiple opportunities for turnovers. At the conclusion of this game, I think Texas will pick up a much-needed victory if they execute establishing the run and dominate time of possession to keep the defense off the field. Easier said than done, but if the Texas defense expectedly keeps Texas offense in the game like they have done this year, then it will be up to the 5 in the trenches and Wisner and CJ Baxter to carry the offense and give the defense much-needed rest. If done properly, I see Texas coming out on top in a low-scoring game, but it is vital to establish the run, which they have had trouble doing up to this point.
Yeah, and Vandy coming to town this year, before the season when Pavia was talking about the national championship, he wants to win Vandy national championship, I was like, dude, are you joking? Are you serious? And now he's coming in. They have one loss. Texas, they have another chance to make a statement this week. And Texas has to be at the top of their game. Last question. So this team has been a tricky one to understand this season. And though it was not necessarily a pretty victory, the comeback we just saw speaks to the resilience of the roster like we were talking about. Give us your thoughts on the identity of this team. And if the game told us anything about the Horns can do on the road.
Well, to put it plainly, we're past the point of it being early into this college football season. As Week 10 approaches, there are a couple things that are clear about this Longhorn football team. The most blaring is the lack of an offensive identity. For an offense that has failed to pick up over 75 rushing yards in 3 of their 4 conference games, struggled with inconsistency from a first-year quarterback, and experienced suspect play calling and drops from other ends of the ball, everything from the coaching to the execution has prevented them from finding a rhythm. Another thing that's clear is a defense that will keep you in games. And I could go on and on about how well they've played this year, but after surrendering 38 points to Mississippi State, it's at least fair to say they are not impenetrable. With all these woes, struggles, and adversity the team has faced, all considering, Texas fans are probably content with a 3-1 conference record up to this point. They have an excellent opportunity this weekend to keep turning things around. I won't say the formula they've been using so far is sustainable, but I will say this is a team that knows how to survive. If somebody told you the defense was going to give up 40 during last week's game, you probably would have said they definitely lost, but obviously they didn't. They didn't lose because the team has the ability to pick each other up and step up whenever one side of the ball is struggling. Not just last week, but the week before against Kentucky, and then even before that with Oklahoma. All 3 sides of the ball have played together just well enough to inch out 3 straight victories. And while those games have not been a walk in the park, momentum can go a long way in a college football season and bring that locker room together to find ways to keep clicking. If the team's identity is to survive, then it is clear what they have to do this week. You guessed it, survive, win, adapt, and on to the next week. Adversity has not phased them yet, and if they find yet another way to win this week against a tough Vanderbilt team, that sets the stage for what would be the biggest game of the season in Athens. Now, pending a Longhorn victory this weekend, and assuming Manning is ready for that game, the fact that the Longhorns have kept their playoff hopes and SEC hopes alive up to that point is impressive to say the least. In this conference, stranger things have happened. Unpredictability is a common theme, but despite the team's inability to win convincingly, they have defied the odds so far, and any chance of a deep run will become a lot more revealing after this weekend's game against Vanderbilt. Now, Sarkisian's culture has implemented 60 minutes of effort every Saturday for the past 3 years, and there's no denying that the team will continue to be scrappy and finish out the season the best they can, no matter what negative narratives continue to be pushed about them.
Exactly. The games before don't matter right now. If Texas can execute their plan these next 4 games, they will find themselves having a chance to win the SEC championship. Great analysis, Max. Now let's send it back to Dylan at the desk.
Solid work, Max and Nolan. When College Press Box returns, we will take a deep dive into Texas volleyball's dominant week, as well as women's soccer's strong end to their 2025 campaign, and an early look at the upcoming women's basketball season. Keep it here on College Press Box.
Welcome back to College Press Box. It was a busy week for women's sports on the 40 acres as Texas volleyball won both of its games, keeping its undefeated season alive, while Texas soccer ended its season on a high note. Also, Texas women's basketball is starting to ramp up in preparation for its highly anticipated season with multiple exhibition games. Now let's go to Dylan, who's with our next analyst, to take a closer look at these teams.
Thanks, Nolan. I'm here with Emma Wallace to talk more about this Texas team. Welcome to the show, Emma. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Definitely some good wins for Texas volleyball over the weekend, so I'm excited to get talking about them.
Definitely. Well, Texas volleyball still undefeated as they have only 5 games left before they start the SEC tournament. How are the Longhorns looking going into the end of the season, and how do you think they are ready to prepare to play against teams like Nebraska in the postseason?
Well, I have to say Texas is looking good going into the tournament. Currently, they're on an 18-game win streak and have won. And out of the 64 sets they've played so far, they've only lost 10. They are number 1 in the SEC, and they are producing in every facet of the game. As a team, they have 915 kills, 850 assists, and 124 blocks. I feel they most likely will have an easy time in the tournament. However, I don't feel that Texas is ready to face a team like Nebraska. The Huskers have been playing arguably some of the most perfect volleyball we have ever seen. They are not only on a 20-game win streak, but an 11-game sweep streak. If Texas wants to beat them, they have to play practically perfect. And even though the two teams have nearly identical stats, the Huskers are more consistent than the Longhorns. Texas really needs to work on their consistency if they want any chance of beating the Huskers.
Yeah, it really feels like every week you're waiting for that Texas rank to go up to 1, but they're never quite able to get there because as good as they are, the Huskers are just that much better. So hopefully they can find that consistency and really hope to compete against them. Now moving to basketball, Texas women's basketball is starting their season in less than a week, with their first game being on November 3rd against Incarnate Word. Who do you think is going to be big on the court for the Longhorns this season?
Well, for the obvious answers here, I'm going to have to say Rory Harmon and Madison Booker. Both had impressive stats last year, with Booker having 620 points and 256 rebounds, and Harmon having 363 points and 136 rebounds. Both of these players were key parts in the Longhorns' Elite Eight victory over TCU, and I feel that they will be really important on the court for Texas this season. However, there were 2 players that really showed out during the Longhorns' exhibition match against Lubbock Christian, and those players were Kayla Oldacre and Justice Carlton. In that match, Carlton had 25 points and 10 rebounds, and Oldacre had 21 points and 9 rebounds. Even though this was just an exhibition match, I feel that this speaks well for how these two will perform this season, and I foresee them being really good for Texas on the court.
Yeah, big season for the Longhorns after going out in the Final Four last year, hoping to get all the way to the national championship. Now moving to soccer, Texas women's soccer had their last match of the season on Sunday against Ole Miss. How was this game for the Longhorns?
For Texas, this was a dominant game and a great way to finish out their season on a high. Coming into this game, the Longhorns were on a 5-game losing streak and were looking to just get their 4th win of the season, and they did just that. Texas scored back-to-back goals early, with freshman Ava McDonald scoring her 9th goal of the season and sophomore Amelia Vanderwell scoring her 8th. Texas was able to keep the Rebels scoreless for the entirety of the game with the help of their keeper, Kendell Williams.
Yeah, great win for the Longhorns soccer after what could be considered a turbulent season. Great to see them finishing out on a high. That'll do it for over here. Thanks for joining again, Emma. Back to you, Nolan.
Thanks, Emma and Dylan. When College Press Box returns, we'll be taking a deep dive into Major League Baseball and the World Series. You won't want to miss it.
Welcome back to College Press Box. Well, the World Series has arrived, and it's already given us some early fireworks. With the series tied 1-1, let's send it to Tyler and Nolan to break it all down.
Thanks, Dylan. I'm here with Tyler Strempel to talk about the World Series. How's it going, Tyler?
It's going great. I'm excited to be back here on Press Box on today's Sports Equinox. All of the sports on today. What a great day. I love October.
Absolutely. So let's get into it. We're 2 games into the World Series. What are the biggest stories from the series so far?
Well, we start with Game 1, where we got to see what happens when Toronto's explosive lineup faces Los Angeles' bullpen, and it leads to straight carnage. The 6th inning in Game 1 resulted in 9 runs for the Blue Jays, including Addison Barger's pinch hit grand slam, the first and the only one in the 122-year history of the World Series. Blake Snell was hit with 5 earned runs, Emmett Sheehan and Anthony Banda were hit with 3 each, and the Dodgers just couldn't get past the Blue Jays' lineup. Toronto won that game 11-4, but the tables turned. Game 2, The Dodgers bullpen got a rest as Yoshinobu Yamamoto threw a complete game 1-run gem, and thanks in part to catcher Will Smith's 3 RBI performance, the Dodgers won that game 5-1, and as was said before, the series is tied going into Game 3 in Los Angeles tonight.
Yes, all to play for in the series. And what a nail-biting series it has been so far with both the games, just being pretty hectic so far. Going into Game 3, what does each team need to do to win the World Series?
Well, that's a great question, and really it's pretty simple. The entire series rests on the pitching staff of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Now, the Dodgers rotation is lights out with Blake Snell, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Tyler Glasnow, and even, yes, Shohei Ohtani. But their bullpen has been their Achilles heel all year and so far in the series. If the Dodgers want to win, they need to cash in deep game performances from their starting rotation, minimize the use of their bullpen. But on the contrary, if the Blue Jays want to win, they need to do what they did in Game 1. Get past the starters, make the bullpen do more work. The Blue Jays and their explosive lineup have the ability to put major runs up on the Dodgers in a short amount of time. Now, with Los Angeles having 3 games at home after a 1-1 series tie over in Toronto, the Jays' ability to go through pitchers is going to be paramount to their chances of taking this World Series.
Absolutely. You know, the Dodgers spent so much money in the bullpen in the offseason. Who would have thought that that would have been one of their biggest weaknesses going into the World Series? Just absolutely crazy. Pitching is going to be key for sure. So after 2 games, who do you think will win the series, and who will win the coveted World Series MVP?
Yeah, well, I'm going to be honest, it was hard to choose between the immovable force of the Dodgers starting rotation, the unstoppable object of the Blue Jays offense. However, with what I saw in Game 1, and what the Blue Jays have been able to do with great comebacks and great fundamental professional hitting, I'm going to be a little contrarian here. I'm going to choose the Blue Jays in 7 games. I think going into their roster, trying to see who's having a really good series, who's hitting well, who's making contact, and right now it looks like Alejandro Kirk having a great series so far, 500 average, 3 RBIs so far, will win the World Series MVP. I see him having just a great professional hitting series, having an X factor to be able to propel the Blue Jays to their first title in 32 years.
Wouldn't that be something? With all the stars in the series on the Dodgers side, but also on the Blue Jays side, Alejandro Kirk winning this World Series MVP, personally, I'd be here for it. Great analysis, Tyler. Now back to you at the desk, Dylan.
Thanks, Tyler and Nolan. When we return to College Press Box, we'll take a look at the past week in Longhorn sports and see what's ahead. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to College Press Box. Let's take a look at this past week in Longhorn sports. Number 5 ranked Texas men's golf team finished runner-up behind the Florida Gators at last week's Williams Cup in Wilmington, North Carolina. This marks the team's second runner-up finish of the season. Texas was led by star sophomore Daniel Bennett, who shot 6 under over the 3 rounds, finishing solo second on the individual leaderboard. Now the Longhorns will have a few months of rest before returning to competitive action in January to open the spring season.
This past weekend, Texas women's basketball was ranked as the number 1 SEC team in the latest coaches poll, beating out a South Carolina team that won the conference title last season. This marks the second time a Vic Schaefer-led Texas team earned the preseason conference number 1 spot in the coaches poll, but the first time in the SEC. AP ranked Texas as the number 4 team in the country with the season on the horizon.
Last week, Texas senior linebacker Trey Moore was named as one of 16 finalists for the 2025 William V. Campbell Trophy. The trophy is annually given to a student athlete who shows excellence on the field, academic success, and exemplary leadership. The winner will be announced at a ceremony on December 9th.
Now let's take a look at this week in Longhorn sports. So on Friday, the 31st, a scary matchup for Texas volleyball going up against A&M in College Station. That's at 6:30. Then on Saturday, the big game, football at home versus Vanderbilt, the first home game in over a month. Big matchup. That's at 11 a.m. on ABC. Then Sunday, volleyball will take on Kentucky at home at 12 on ESPN. Then on the 3rd, Texas women's basketball opens up their season against Incarnate Word. That's at 7 p.m. on SEC Network Plus.
And that concludes this week's episode of College Press Box. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, please make sure to tune into our other shows this week, including College Crossfire, Wednesdays airing at 9 p.m., and the 1-0 Sports Show on Fridays at 11 a.m. Also, we invite you to follow our coverage on Instagram, X, TikTok, and YouTube at the handle TSTV Sports. Thank you to all of our analysts, everyone in Master Control, our executive producer Kendell Ungar, and all of our reporters in TSTV Sports. I'm Nolan Clay. He's Dylan Becker. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful night.